Noswaith dda, we are back. It seems like we've been away for ages, but it's lovely to be back. Welcome to the NFL Cymru Podcast. Croeso I chi gyd. Back with the usuals, myself, David Cannan, Gito Williams, and as you can see, well, you've heard his voice, you've seen his face before, returning for another episode with us, another screening here on the NFL Cymru Podcast. Chief, IOAN FURNHAM, how's it going, pal?
I'm all right, thank you. It's wonderful to be back. A little bit more alive this time.
Yeah.
Not after the Super Bowl loss. It's great to be back, and I'm ready to discuss some very nice football.
Yeah, it's like it seems. I don't know how it just seems like ages ago since the Super Bowl. Obviously, first week of February, and we're going to go into it. But a lot of franchises, a lot of rosters look drastically different. Clearly, because we're 3 weeks into free agency. So the reason that we've got IOAN on, because we want to kind of do some Eagles talk this evening and just other free agency things in general, amongst other topics that we will shortly get to, because there's been, like IOAN kind of mentioned just before we came on, there's been an exodus, especially on the defensive side of the roster with the Eagles. Many free agents that were kind of due and that have benefited from a Super Bowl run, and they've maxed out on their contracts. So we'll get to some of their main and what have the Eagles obviously brought in as well. That's kind of another thing. And how many holes have they got on their defense? Their offense is still pretty stacked, but we'll get into the state of the Eagles very, very shortly. Gito, Croeso, just want to mention, what did you get up to at the end of last week? There was an NFL event up in North Wales. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's what that boys. So yeah, I went to the Hickory's restaurant in Wrexham. There was a little tour that was going on with if the UK fans, you must be aware of the Sky Sports NFL presenters. Obviously, you've had Neil Reynolds, Jason Bell, and Phoebe Schechter. They were doing like a little tour, like a sort of Q&A sort of thing, getting to meet the crowd and everything, etc. This one was in Wrexham in North Wales. It was a very good turnout. It was good fun, good laugh. I went with my girlfriend Sophie. Shout out to Sophie, by the way. And but yeah, no, it was good fun, good laugh. It was like a Q&A session, telling their stories, and yeah, great food as well. So no, it was good. It was a good evening. I posted it on my socials if you guys want to have a look. But no, and we got pictures with them in the end. They're lovely people. Phoebe Schechter, Jason Bell. It so just so happened to be Jason Bell's birthday as well when we were in Wrexham. So there was a massive cake for him there. So
Nice.
shout out to Neil as well. He's one of the pioneers of NFL sports here in the UK. So everyone's full of praises for him. So, but yeah, that's what I did. It was good to see them. It was brilliant. It's nice to have a little event going on in Wales as well. So, yeah.
Did you get to meet any other North Walian Falcons fans?
I was the only Falcons fan there, actually. So,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
no, I was literally the only one. Funnily enough, I'll tell you who I did meet. As I was looking to my side, there was a piece of paper. We had like our names on it, who reserved the
Yeah.
table, etc. Who just so happens to be sitting next to me was a former special guest of ours, Canan Anwell.
Friend of the
So,
pod, Mr. Cannon,
yeah,
he pops up
we
again.
that's it. Yeah, can never get enough of him. So, but no, we had a Saints fan and a Falcons fan in the same table. It was very strange, but
Oh, brilliant.
there we go. But no, had a good. We had a couple of beers together as well and a good
Sweet.
laugh. So great seeing him
Nice.
as always. Yeah, no, overall, just a brilliant evening. So really
Cool.
good.
Talking of the Falcons, not a lot going on in the NFL world in terms of breaking news at the moment. The only thing that we have to mention really is a notable retirement. A legend of the game, definitely a legend in Atlanta. Julio Jones has
Yeah,
called it quits after how many years? How many seasons, Gito?
I believe it was. I want to say 15. Am I correct in saying 15?
15. Well,
So,
it's probably close to 15
yeah.
because, yeah, he was quite young when he
But
got drafted out of Alabama, I think.
what a legend for the Falcons. You know, Matt Ryan said himself he's the best weapon he's had. So it's a massive compliment for him. And you know, just going through his stats quickly, you know, it's immense. He's a 5-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. You know, 66 touchdowns, over 900 receptions, and over 13,000 receiving yards. You know, they're Hall of Fame numbers. You know, it's a shame during the Super Bowl, which I don't like to talk about, but that catch that he did during that game, it's one of the best catches you could probably ever see, but obviously overshadowed by the Patriots' performance there in the second half. So, but you know, Julio Jones. You know, the reason I got into the Falcons was because of Julio Jones. I've got a little figurine of him in the corner over there, so he's my all-time Falcons player. So, sweet. But no, you know, you know, he hasn't played for the Falcons for the last couple of years, but it's still quite sad seeing him retire. But you know, like we said, what a career! What a career.
He bounced around a few teams after leaving, didn't he? He went to Tennessee, I remember.
Yeah, and the Titans as well.
To where? Sorry.
And the Eagles.
To Tennessee as well.
Tennessee.
He had his last great game.
Oh yeah, he went to the Eagles.
Yeah, of course.
That sort of led to the downfall of that season. So that great performance was unfortunately overshadowed by other issues. But yeah, it was a bit of a sweat. I would say that unfortunately was his swan song with the 2 touchdown performance. But yeah, what a player. Will go down as one of the greater players never to win a ring, unfortunately. But yeah, absolute monster.
Oh,
exactly.
Tragic.
Yeah. Hall of Famer as well. Future Hall of Famer.
Oh, first ballot for me. First ballot Hall of Famer, definitely.
Yeah.
Would you put him in? Where would you rank him in terms of wide? I know this is an impossible question to answer really, because obviously the game has changed so much since 20 years ago, and receivers' roles have drastically changed and things like that. Where would you rank him? Is he kind of like in your top 10 of best ever wide receivers?
In that bottom echelon, and this is nothing to take away from his performances. His performances make him one of the best to ever do it in terms of pure number ones, your high point catches, the athleticism shown, the power shown. Like he has himself an own compilation of the tackles that he makes on interception returns. Like there's no doubt about it, he's one of the best and pure number ones of all time. But is he top 10? It's that LeBron James argument when you compare him with Michael Jordan. He just doesn't have the rings to show for it. His only Super Bowl appearance being the 28-3 performance against the Patriots in Super Bowl 51. He's a fantastic player, but unfortunately, I see him. I see Mike Evans entering above him when he eventually retires. So I don't think I can confidently say top 10. I love him as a player. He was one of my first people that I played with when I first got into football, playing Madden 19 when he was still in his prime. But I don't think we can confidently say top 10. Very close to the top 10, but not quite.
Gito, obviously, you have an element of bias, obviously, as being a Falcons fan.
Yeah.
Would you, as in, what? Obviously, would you rank him? Would you rank him in the top 10 of all time?
Yeah. All time is. It could say is a little bit of a stretch. Maybe he's very close to being a top 10. I think. I would argue he's definitely, around the bottom 10 area, if not a little bit lower. But yeah, in terms of the wide receiver drafted after the year 2000, 100% top 10.
Oh,
100%. I think that's pretty clear. So, but yeah, maybe all time. Like I said, it's a shame that he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring on him. He's one of them players that deserve to win a Super Bowl. Obviously, we had the chance, we blew it. That's what happens. But no, but still, at the end of the day, an amazing career, an amazing player,
If I could add,
athlete as well. So
if I could add, I would say he's the last of the pure power, strong, wide receivers in the sense that all he did, it was fades, it was deep balls. You wouldn't catch him on a jet sweep. He wouldn't catch him doing anything that Justin Jefferson is doing today. And I think he along with Larry Fitzgerald, those type of guys, were the last of his generation, and sort of put it up on a high note.
Yeah. Yeah, do you know what? That's a really, really good point. The wide receiver position has evolved so much over the last 10 years, especially, where you've got kind of like maybe more element of kind of speed, I suppose, and agility maybe, but like you said, kind of Julio. The only comparison, I mean, it's not a fair comparison. I'm just looking at athletic ability here. The only guy that is still in the league that I can see that could do the same role as him is DK. I can't think of anyone else that
biased.
kind of
I
has
think
the
AJ
same
Brown
role
could
potentially as Julio Jones.
AJ, if he wasn't in such a spread offense where the ball was going everywhere, I still think he'd be like we saw it in Tennessee, but before he came to the Eagles. But again, Eagles bias. Sorry to cut you off there.
Yeah. No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, so there we are. He goes in the category of one of the greats to play the game, definitely to play the position that didn't win a ring. He's up there for me on par with people like one of my favourite players of all time, Adrian Peterson. It's an absolute travesty that he never won a ring as well. You know, probably one of the best running backs ever to play the game. So there we are. Plain sailing, best of luck to whatever Julio Jones is going to do in his career, whether he becomes a coach, whether he leaves the world of the NFL, we'll see kind of very, very shortly. So there we are. Okay, Johan, let's get into it. The Philadelphia Eagles, state of the Eagles. First of all, as a fan, how would you rate how your recruitment has been? Obviously, before anything got started, we heard that Saquon got paid. Like you said, thoroughly deserved. Having a historical year. Maybe it'll stand as probably one of the best standout performances by a running back. And the thing is, for Saquon, it could get even better. So, you know, he could put up these numbers again. Perhaps, you know, DCs are going to potentially, you know, target him a little bit more this year, but, you know, they tried to do that towards the end of last year as well. So, yeah, what do you think of how you've recruited, or maybe the lack of recruitment? And obviously, did you expect
you've got to sort
this
of
mass
expect it in the sense
exodus on the defensive side of the
we
ball?
all know it was coming in the sense of the Super Bowl hangover. It happens to every team that wins the Super Bowl. Everyone thinks that they're the best players in sliced bread and wants to get paid like it. Some deservedly, some maybe not. But I think that Howie Roseman himself said that this off season was going to be a long one. This means that we aren't going to fix our issues in the first week of free agency. We don't have the cap space to make any particularly huge moves, especially since re-signing Zach Bourne. Admittedly, it was a very good deal, and I expect nothing less from Mr. Roseman. But at the same time, we've got to balance our books. Otherwise, we're going to end up like the Saints, where you push and push and push to the point where you're negative over by 50 million, and you start panicking. But there were some surprises initially when you look at the real surprises is that we have not been afraid to cut players where it has been necessary and where age has shown. So when you look at the Darius Slay move initially, where he was designated as a post-June 1st release, we expected him to either restructure a contract or resign. Obviously, him signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, it frees up some cash. We don't. I'm not quite sure on the situation of the dead cap whether we take a hit or to not. But as I understand, it was a move to free up money to look elsewhere. The real controversial one of the off-season, I'd argue, was the CJ Gardner-Johnson release, where as a player in the locker room, he has been extremely key to the attitudes, to the headspace of that defense. He's really been in the core of it. But when you look up his stats, the amount of touchdowns he let up last season from what is expected to be an elite safety is just unacceptable. Like we saw it on Talking Points on our first take. Stephen A. Smith mentioned it when it first cut. So if we have the players to replace him. So under the tutelage of CJ Gardner-Johnson, Sidney Brown has started to excel in his role, being coming off that ACL tear 2 years ago, and is now starting to really find his feel. Right, almost being a little brother to CJ Gardner-Johnson. He talks a lot more than he used to do compared to a few years ago when he was a rookie. And I think he's really taken in that I don't want to say aura because it's an overused word, but that's the sort of thing that we're seeing really. In terms of signings, Adoree Jackson comes in as a necessary veteran piece, but obviously filling the gap that Darius Slay and James Bradbury have left. Admittedly, Bradbury being the pariah that he was, especially during our first Super Bowl season, and then being completely losing his form the following season. But the two really interesting signings, in my opinion, are both Josh Uche and Kenyon Green from the Houston Texans. Both with underwhelming performances this year, but I feel like that is the Howie Roseman play. We've seen this play happen, and we've seen them say, "Oh, why have you signed Mekhi Becton? He's a bust. He's a first-round bust. Why are you changing his position?" And then you see these players flourish under the coaching tutelage of a Jeff Stoutland, of a Vic Fangio, and all of a sudden they become all-stars. And this is the reason why we have these cap problems: is that we scout, we assess. And I don't mean to talk about. Obviously, I am biased. Obviously, I'm still riding the high of the Super Bowl team. But if you look at what the money situation and what we could have done, I think we have done the best that we can at the moment to fill the gaps. And one last thing to really look at is the sheer amount of compensatory picks that the Eagles have received as a result of all these free agents leaving. Something ridiculous like 15 picks in the next draft. So, projected over 20 between the next two, with 10 of them being in the first three rounds. And as we've seen from this year, everyone up to about the fourth round was a contributor to that Super Bowl winning team. Whether it was Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, Jelix Hunt, all first, second, third round, fourth round picks, with Jeremiah Trotter admittedly taking a quieter role, but making some key plays on special teams. Like, this is the Harry Roseman play. This is the Harry Roseman playbook. It's look for the youth, look for the potential, and obviously you're gonna miss some on the way. Like I will forever remember sitting there on my own at 2 a.m. during the height of the COVID pandemic as we draft Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson. But I fully believe that he knows what he's doing. We're gonna bide our time. We're gonna use the time the off season gives, and then if something that presents itself, then we consider it. I really don't think that any panic is necessary, because if you've seen what Harry Roseman has done over the last 3 years, I think there's absolutely no reason why we should be doubting him.
100%. And you can, do you know what? You could see a Josh Uche slowly turning into what's happened, like you said, what's happened to Josh Sweat, who's now maxed out on a deal with the Cardinals, and you know how Hassan Reddick did the year prior as well. So yeah, and like you said, you trust Roseman, you trust the coaching squad to coach up those players, to develop them, and obviously the scouting for the Eagles, especially when it comes to drafting, is so spot on as well. So yeah, I'm completely with you. Although it seemed a bit shocking to those from the outside that maybe aren't clued in as you as a fan with the Eagles, where, like you said, this was expected, and like you said, that's the best. The Super Bowl win and the Super Bowl run was the best thing that happened for those free agents like Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, who were potentially looking to get paid, and that's exactly what happened. You know, Milton Williams had a historical deal, but look where he is now. He's with the Patriots. He's in a team. Okay, he's got probably a brilliant defensive minded coach in Vrabel, but you know, Patriots. I'd be highly surprised to see them, contributing, being competitive, within the next potentially 1 or 2 seasons. Unless, I mean, Gito, do you reckon? Do you reckon the Patriots are going to? Do you reckon the turnaround for the Patriots are going to be that drastically quick, or do you think it's going to take a while before what they've done in the draft, and especially this off season, to come into fruition?
I don't think it'll be as soon, but I don't think it'll be a late turnaround either. It might be like a couple of seasons, maybe 2 or 3, for the Patriots. I think they're in a decent spot, with the cap space, the new head coach, the players that they brought in. I think they're in a decent spot, So I can see it. I don't think it'll be a 1-season wonder sort of thing. I think it'll be like a 2 or 3 season kind of job for them to do a massive turnaround and compete, But just going back to the Eagles quickly, what I like about and obviously both of you already said it. It doesn't, and from what I've seen as well, it doesn't seem to be any panic from the Eagles either. They've obviously lost, obviously Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and everything, etc. But they've brought some players in who could, it could be a turnaround for their careers as well, like you mentioned. So yeah. I like the fact that there's no panic from it. I don't know about Johan. It was a shock seeing Josh Sweat leave, CJ Gardner-Johnson leave as well, Milton Williams. It was like what we were all thinking. What is going on?
I think
but it just doesn't seem.
I wouldn't even call Sweat a shock.
On, so.
Like, we knew he deserved his payday. He'd been slowly building his resume over the 3 years. I think the shock was more the organisation was willing to let go of CJ Gardner-Johnson because of his personality. Because even though, he was a little bit of a liability, I'm not going to lie, as much as I like him, he was a big part of the locker room culture. And playing on, I know it's not comparable, but playing on teams, the importance of a good culture is night and day, especially when you want to win. So, as you said, no panic. I can't wait for drafting. Is my favorite time of year. Watching Harry Roseman. Again, this is bias all the way. But it's art. No, he's.
It is. I was going to say it's. It literally. It's poetry, isn't it? Literally.
Obviously, we're saying this retrospectively because we've seen how his draft picks have come out over the last few years. But what I don't think you can find another GM in the NFL that has quite got the same sort of pedigree that he has at this point.
No, exactly. The only comparable, the only one that comes close, but then potentially has got kind of a few more, misses or near misses, is I definitely think that Brett Veach of the Kansas City Chiefs has definitely done his job as well. But in terms of Howie Roseman, I don't think, like you said, I don't think anyone kind of is in the same ballpark as him at the moment. So let's talk about draft then, Johan. Like, as a fan, I'll ask you 2 questions. What position would you like the Eagles to target? And then I guess part B of that is, realistically,
there's 2 approaches
what do you
they
think
can
they'll go after?
really use with this. They can sit back, they can find the diamonds in the rough, or we could maybe package some picks, some of those lovely third, fourth round compensatory picks. Maybe leapfrog a few places and draft one of the top prospects. It just depends what the approach that they want to take. I mean, we've seen some absolutely delusional takes where we've seen them hop to the top 5 and take the likes of Abdul Carter, bringing him home from Penn State to Philadelphia. The 3 main positions of need, in my opinion. Number 1 would be we need to find a cornerback 2. Keely Ringo, he's young, he hasn't had a chance to prove himself, but at the same time, I'm not a full believer of Keely Ringo in what I saw in that of him stepping up into that quarterback 2 role last year when James Bradbury went down with an injury. again, I haven't seen him play in the Fangio system, but I think it would be amiss not to look to draft another cornerback somewhere in the second or third round, which is something some may call me insane for saying one after seeing the breakout season that Quignon and Cooper DeJean had in their first seasons. But Big Fangio has come out saying that he wants to keep DeJean in the nickel. He is a pure nickel corner, and Quignon himself will have a large task now in stepping up into that cornerback one role with the absence of Slay. And obviously with Adoree Jackson being present, as much as I respect Adoree Jackson, there's a reason that the Giants, one of the worst run NFL teams in the league, has decided to let him go. Like I don't back him personally. I think he was the veteran presence that was needed with the exodus of veterans, but I don't see him competing for a starting spot. The second, obviously, I think is it really depends on how strongly they feel about Josh Uche, but I definitely wouldn't hurt seeing an edge rusher be taken off the board quite early, filling that giant Josh Sweat hole. Just that they don't even need to be a superstar. They just need to be solid, because Bryce Huff was meant to be one of the more promising signings in the last free agency and has produced absolutely nothing. And we can't get into a situation where we're expecting Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, especially Jordan Davis, who is known not to be a 3-4 down lineman, to do everything. You can't do everything from the interior anymore compared to a few decades ago. So edge rusher has to be a priority. And the third one is I want to see that right guard spot filled. I want to see more talent, more. Well, essentially, guard and tackle, even with Lane Johnson starting to look a bit long in the tooth. Obviously, he's returned for the next season, but I think he's on his Jason Kelsey arc where he's going to start signing one-year deals until he decides to hang up the boots again. First ballot for Hall of Famer when he does. But I think it's going to be a lot of unsexy picks. It's going to be a lot of smart picks. Unless he decides that Harry Roseman wants to take a very aggressive approach, but who knows? We never know what approach he's going to take, really, and it may surprise us. Everyone screamed at him for taking Jalen Hurts in the second round over some guy called Denzel Mims, who is a no-name undrafted free agent now. Well, a no-name free agent now, and now we have a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So we can scream, we can shout, we can do whatever, we can tell him what to do, but at the end of the day, like I'm confident in saying that he knows best. I would not have said that 3 years ago, but I very much do now. So cornerback, edge, and I want to see that right side of the line get some depth, because as you've seen with Jordan Mailata, like a few years in the Statland-related oven, a few years to mature, get the feel for it, and then give it a go. And who knows? Like Tyler Steen, all credit to him, who backed up Mekhi Becton in a few games this season. Very solid backup, very young. So it's not that like we have options. It's just a very nice feeling to think that we only have a few holes we need to fix, because of the way that we've dealt with this off-season and the confidence that I feel in Roseman. It's a very nice feeling to think that we may not get a shot at these top prospects, but again, I don't think we need to.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of like even on offensively as well, I guess potentially, like, do you reckon that you'd need would you want to kind of like upgrade the tight end 2 spot, or maybe what about a wide receiver 3?
No.
Would you kind of
I'd say wide receiver 3
be tempted to upgrade kind of those situations as well?
He had a quiet obviously postseason, but he came up where it mattered. He had touchdown catches. That wide receivers 3 spot does not need to produce. It simply doesn't. We don't need to share the ball around. So if you can get that relief guy that makes the odd play, and he does make the odd big play with the almost touchdown catch he had in the Super Bowl, and that first touchdown that kick-started the game against the Green Bay Packers. Like, of course, he had a load of time on it, but he still caught it. So we leave the wide receiver 3 spot alone. The whole tight end situation is a big question. It's probably the biggest question on offense at the moment because obviously we lose Grant Calcaterra to free agency. He was a great tight end who really came into his own over the last 2 years. But there are some flying rumours about the want to trade Dallas Goedert to try and get some compensation because of the level of hit that his cap takes.
Yeah.
And our efforts to reduce that cap hit over the next few years, as we're going to be bringing in a lot of rookies and a lot of new talent. And honestly, I wouldn't be the hugest mourner if Dallas Goedert were to leave. Obviously, he has been a stalwart for the Eagles. He's been there ever since the 4-11 season. He's been there since Carson Wentz was at the helm, backing up under Zach Ertz, under the tutelage of Zach Ertz. But I would like to see if we could amass those picks. There's the aggressive strategy. If we were to go to an aggressive strategy, I would personally target Tyler Warren, target him, bring him into the system, and then have him take over and use the draft capital that Dallas Goedert produces to then push for what I believe is the generational talents. Again, bias. I'm a Penn State fan. I'm going to say that every time, but I think the story writes itself. We brought if we can continue bringing these Penn State players in, marrying them with the Georgia Bulldogs that we have on our defense, I think it's a great recipe for success. And I think with the production, although he has been injured way too often for him to be considered absolutely elite and not worth considered trading. But the problem is with the NFL GMs aren't stupid. They're going to look at these red flags, and obviously if they see that we're going to try and offload for cap and his contract is up in a year, they're going to wait. There's no point giving up even a late round pick for a play as productive as he is when he's healthy. I mean, look at the touchdown run he had against the Green Bay Packers, handing off to a guy twice to get to the end zone. I don't think the tight end position isn't a very conscientious one at the moment, with a down season sort of all across the board, in my opinion, with the exception of maybe the Lions tight end who have now just blanked on completely. But with Kelsey, Kittle, although he has a very good season, still a down season for him. Sam Laporta, thank you very much, Kanan. I just think that I don't see an NFL team pushing particularly hard to get him in their locker room. But that's the only two positions on offense, I would argue. The interesting one, in my opinion, is the pickup of Kenyon Green, which sort of scratched my head a bit because I went and watched some of his tape, and I'm not saying that I'm an NFL scout or anything, but as an offensive lineman who's watched a lot of offensive lineman tape, there's a lot to fix there, and I don't think we can expect him to step into Mekhi Becton's shoes too quickly unless Jeff Stoutland digs deep in his magic dust cellar of magic dust and puts all of his resources into improving him. Because statistically, he was the worst right guard that was starting in pass pro, second worst in run blocking. It was either that or vice versa. Like, it's either going to be a generational pickup or he's going to be on the market looking for a new team come the 53-man roster cut. So those are pretty much my key takes for the Eagles offense. But as I said, with what AJ Brown now confirmed looks like to be staying after the fending off the new Patriots rumors, Devontae Smith, Saquon, and the rest of the O-line, Dickerson, Mailata, I don't think anything drastic. We don't need to panic yet, but it would certainly not hurt to build for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Gito, have you got anything else on the Eagles before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, no, it's just I agree. They, like you said, there is no panic in there at all. I wonder if they want to go for a high caliber tight end, like you mentioned. I would imagine they'd have to try and trade their way up there, but I just don't see a lot of teams that's in the draft board wanting to trade lower than what they are. And there's a lot of teams, especially in the top 10, that are struggling to, and they want to get some top players. So I've seen a lot of mock drafts. They'll be looking at defensive tackles and some safeties as well. I'm not sure what your opinion is. You've got I've written this, Malachi Starks and There's Nick Emanoris, I believe his name is, and Walter Milton is another name I've seen
I'd
pop up
agree,
for
but at the
the
same time,
Eagles as well.
I'm
And
a huge believer in the potential that Sidney Brown has, and the way that Blankenship especially has stepped in so hard into his role as the opposite safety to CJ Gardner-Johnson. And if you can do so a good a job under what is considered now statistically a liability, I don't see why I would say look for it in the later rounds, look for a diamond in the rough, but I don't really see the need for a panic. Like there's not
Yeah.
it's the one spot. It's the less concerning spot on the secondary, and I would argue a cornerback would be more pressing of a need than safety at the moment.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just last last question for me really on the Eagles. First of all, obviously the departure of Kellen Moore, you've decided, the Eagles have decided to gone internally. I think we had this chat when things were surfacing about Kellen Moore, and you said, and I remember you saying that you wished that they would do an external look,
Yeah,
and maybe I think you said you wanted Steichen,
I don't
didn't you,
like
to be a new
this.
OC?
This has Sirianni trying to get his paws all over the offense again, and I will shout this at Jeffrey Lurie, at Harry Roseman. Keep Sirianni away from the offensive playbook, please. The reason that I say this is that we've seen this play out before. We've seen it where in Jalen Hurts' first season, where his offense was extremely predictable, limited, and his play calling duties were stripped of him at the end of the season. We've seen it when we've tried to hire internally with I don't even remember his name now, but he was a bum. But sorry, that was a bit strong. But yeah, no. Obviously, I haven't seen a huge amount of. I can't even remember what his name is. Unfortunately, I'm a terrible fan. But I want to give him a chance. I think it would be very unfair to put him in the same box as the coordinating class of 2020. I want to believe 2023. Yeah, 2023. So I'll give him a chance, but if he pans out to be another bust, we need to just say, look, we're not doing this again. We're going to look for someone else who's available.
Fair. And the other thing that I wanted to mention before we move on is, as an Eagles fan, how aware of you, or have you been aware of kind of keeping an eye on what the Commanders have been doing over this free agency? And they're probably one of the teams that have been slowly building. Clearly, they've done a bit of both. They've re-signed some of their guys. They re-signed Zach Ertz, Bobby Wagner, which are brilliant moves, I think. And then they've gone for the splash plays as well. They've gone for obviously they've gone for Debo and things like. How wary have you been, kind of looking elsewhere and
call me arrogant,
their kind
but
of
I'm not
slow
worried
rise,
at all.
their development over the last
Like,
couple of weeks?
I'm just not. Like, they've lost as big a pieces as they've gained. They lost Jonathan Allen on the D line, which was the biggest issue going into this season. We saw it when Saquon ran all over them in the NFC Championship game. They lost Dante Fowler Jr. Like, you can't keep signing these guys who they're either limited in age or limited by form. Deebo Samuel has not been in form for quite some years now because of his injury, and I think it's a very big risk. So if we were seeing some youth, just some youth to inject into that, to give Jaden Daniels someone who's within the same decade of him. Like, think about it, Zach Ertz has been early to mid 30s. Bobby Wagner, as good as he's playing right now, there is no longevity there. Get one underwhelming season, and I think he's calling it a fantastic career. So, with all due respect to all the Commanders fans listening, I really don't care. Jaden Daniels can't do it all on his own, and we've seen that time and time again. We see that in the Bengals, where Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are doing it all on their own. So again, call me cocky, call this a hot take, whatever you want to do. I don't care. Like, I'm not worried.
No, fair enough.
Fighting words.
Yeah, but like I think we were saying we were kind of shocked to see the avenue that the Bengals had gone down with T Higgins and Jamar Chase, and we were kind of screaming, like you said, from the rooftops, like this is gonna dampen, this is going to cause you some problems, especially cap wise for the next couple of seasons, especially that you've got Burrow, Higgins, and Chase on maximum deals now, and the Bengals have completely seemed to have ignored their their main issue, which was their defense. So yeah, no, it's no, I completely understand your point of view there, and until the Commanders kind of excuse me, prove that they can potentially stop the Eagles' run or whatever, or they can compete. Obviously, I think they're going to be a team that's going to score a lot offensively potentially, but they're going to give up a lot of points as well. So that might balance out, So there we are. Just before we finish, guys. Lewis Rees-Zammit, let's just check in to see where he is. Well, he's in Wales anyway, and he's been posting lately that he's been out there doing some workouts in the gym. There's some extravagant footage of him catching one-handed catches, things like that. Really, I saw you posted it on socials, Gitto. What did you think of it?
Yeah, it looks. Yeah, so putting in the work, which is great to see. Obviously, is showing that he's very determined. It's going to be his second season in the NFL, contract wise, obviously. So no, it's good to see him working out. It looks like he's working really hard on his movement as well. Yeah, there's a lot of technical movements that you need to learn if you want to make it in the NFL. So it looks like he's doing really well. It looks like he's going all over the place, isn't he? But I think IOAN mentioned earlier he's at a university when there's no American football game or anything, so it's more like a freehand training for him. So, but as long as he's doing his movements, as long as he's working, he looks stronger as well. So, hopefully it'll all work out for him when we follow him everywhere. So, yeah, it looks good. He looks like a decent. He's got a good build on him.
I mean, I think those videos of that post was highly edited in terms of the one-handed catches. I'd love to see how many actually attempts that he took. But there we are, and whoever was throwing the ball to him was actually I thought he was actually quite accurate, to be fair. But like you said, how many takes did that take and things like that. He's been, like you said, Gitto, he's kind of been all over the place. He was at Gloucester the other day, watching his former team play. I don't know if you guys are rugby fans. I think he was at the game where Thomas Williams threw a Harlem Globetrotters no-look pass. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but so if you haven't, look that up. That was absolutely class move. So he's been at Gloucester. He's kind of obviously been training at Cardiff Met as well. So just to finish off, Johan, again, honestly, thanks so much for joining us. And like we said, we'll get you back because over the next couple of weeks, first of all, we have to mention that we're less than 3 weeks away from the NFL draft, which is very, very exciting. We've been talking a little bit more draft today, and we're going to come back next week. We're going to have Johan back because hopefully we're going to get a mock draft together at the first round because you've said that this is your favorite time of the year. Mine is free agency, which is kind of just left us. So I mean, it's still ongoing, but the majority of it is over. So we'll definitely ramp up the draft talk between now for the next 2.5-3 weeks. I retweeted or I kind of reposted what you posted on Instagram back
Yeah.
on the 1st of April, which was absolutely
Yeah, so
brilliant. It was a
I'd like to
post
just say
by
this is the
the
first public
South Wales
announcement that the
Warriors. Do you
South
want to
Wales
say what it
Warriors
was,
for
Joe?
the 2025 season are signing Louis Rees-Zammit, a legacy pick, as his father did play for the South Wales Warriors back in the day. It was a great move. I'm pretty sure we recycled it from last year, but again, I think I laughed quite hard when I saw a few of my teammates who were not Warriors fans reposting it. Yeah. I just think it was a great move, and however you feel about Zammit, he's doing a lot better than most of us in the world of Welsh American football, trying to represent us. And I truly wish him the best of luck, because I don't think that rugby window is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as the time goes on. And obviously, he's making a lot. He's getting his contract is the same size as Maro Itoje's in the Premiership, which is one of the highest paid in England. So you cannot blame him on the money front, at least, for staying in the US.
Yeah.
But I feel like this season is the make or break for him, in terms of whether he goes, he stays, or becomes Christian Wade and returns to rugby, and whether he returns to that form, because he, as much as he is in his mid-20s, the longer your prime goes, and especially with his game relying so much on speed. Not to turn this into a rugby podcast, but yeah, I just think it's got to happen at some point, and he has to. He's not going to stay on the practice squad forever. Like that's the whole point of those practice squads, is that you recycle through them every year, looking for diamonds in the rough on low end free agency markets, and the younger free agents that are available. And unfortunately, in NFL terms, he's starting to get to the midpoint of his contract year. If he would be drafted, his contract year is 1 to 2 years out. This would be a make or break season for him if he was on the 53 man. And this is the thing. This got me quite furious. Is the British media picked up it so hard that Louis Rees-Zammit is now on the game day roster for the Jacksonville Jaguars for the first time since last year. But it's a hundred. I can't remember all the exact figures, but the roster numbers is in the high 90s. Of course, he is. They're getting ready to draft people. They're getting ready to go through that whole process of cutting it down again. And I just wish, because it doesn't take much more than a simple Google to figure out what's going on. And I was just call me picky, but that just annoyed me so much.
Nope. I'm not going to call you picky. I'm going to call it lazy journalism. But there we are. I think we've had a chat about this, me and Gito, on what really pisses me off about British, even Welsh media, Johan. Honestly, I've been asked so many times to go on national radio here, and you know, the fact that he wasn't picked up when he was released by the Chiefs last year, when he didn't make the 53 and he was released, I was asked by a journalist, oh, do you reckon now Louis Rees-Zammit will look back in a couple of years' time at his time as the NFL as a failure because he hasn't made the Chiefs squad? And it just infuriated me, because kind of it's just the lack of awareness, and B, clearly he hasn't done his research as well, because he doesn't know that he could be picked up by another team, and lo and behold, less than 24 hours later, he had he was calling his blushes because he was picked up by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they had to get me back to kind of to say, oh, how this has happened, and has this rejuvenated his career, and it's just one kind of everything is that polar opposite. So when he achieves something, it's the best thing in the world, but when that failure kicks in, or he hasn't been picked, or he's been released by a team, he's an instant failure. So there's no middle ground with the Welsh or the British media at the moment, and I just feel that we just slowly need to kind of like educate them to kind of, things work very, very differently over in the US than it does in the world of rugby, and especially in the world of football as well.
Yeah,
so,
on the topic of
I completely agree with your take there.
Louis Rees-Zammit media hype, I'd like to draw your attention. It is 2 days away from Welsh varsity. It also means 2 days and to the year that you brought me on as part of this little crew of Welsh American football fans and avid supporters of the game. So I just said, not an anniversary of such, but I would like to celebrate that, but also celebrate that, but also sort of say the biggest
Yeah.
match in Welsh American football is about to take place in 2 days. If you have nothing to do on a Wednesday afternoon before the Easter holidays, please try and make it. But it'll be pretty much. I just want to put that out there. The Swansea Titans versus the Cardiff Cobras is going to be it's going to be an interesting one after the seasons that both teams have had on very polar opposites of the success
Yeah.
spectrum.
Cool.
But
Cool.
it'll be a fun day out nonetheless. And if there are any Uni Ball fans listening to this podcast, you will definitely catch my drift.
Sweet. First of all, well, my first question is: are you playing?
Unfortunately,
and B, where are you going to be playing and
I
when?
will not be playing, but I will be coaching. I've stepped in as an interim offensive line coach with the departure of Peter Hart to the professional leagues in France. I have taken the helm, looking after my O-lineman, my position that I've loved for so long, making sure my guys have the right tools and the departure that they want, as many leaving this year being a key part of that very successful season that we had last year, going undefeated to the final. So I'd be very proud of that. But I will be lacing up my boots for the first time in over a year, playing for the South Wales Warriors on the 20th of April at home at Llanharan RFC. Playing at home with our home opener against
cool.
the Bournemouth
Nice.
Bobcats, the newly rebranded Bobcats, who have recently had the pleasure of having Steve Rains, the British American football stalwart, that turned around Bournemouth University in such a short time. So I'm very hyped to get that. I have practice on Thursday. I cannot wait to be back on the football field and hopefully putting on a show for everyone in attendance.
Amazing.
Cool.
Oh,
So
class.
the varsity game,
Just remind
if
us,
you can
where's
get
the
it, I'm not
where
entirely
and when
sure
is the
how
varsity
that
game again?
works. It's a very complex system because obviously everything's all over the place when Cardiff hosts varsity, hence why I believe it's better in Swansea. No bias, obviously. That'll be in Samrumney playing fields on the sports facility up there, on one of the rugby pitches. I'm not sure exactly which one, but I'm sure you can spot the helmets and pads anywhere. They use us on the front cover every year at varsity, regardless of how many people turn up, because they love the helmets and pads and they love to put it right on the front. And I find it hilarious that I get jump scared by my best friend's face everywhere I go on campus for a good 2 months. But yeah, kickoff will be at 1:30, and it'll be a good game.
Yeah. Yeah. Class. Oh, I think we just lost Johan for a second. But yeah, definitely varsity sounds. Yeah, that sounds absolutely epic, actually. And it's so. I don't know if Johan can hear me, but it's awesome to hear that you are going to be that you are going to finally be playing, because obviously a year out is. I can imagine for an athlete is no fun, and it's great to hear that you're going to be back with the South Wales Warriors. Yeah, that's going to be absolutely awesome. Gitta, I think that's going to wrap it up. Anything more for you to add before we end?
I believe we've wrapped up everything. It was great having you on. I think Johan's just disappeared. It was great having him back on the show. We'll definitely be having him back. Like I said, next week we'll be doing our draft. I'll be looking into doing my mock draft real soon, and then obviously it'll be more just like comparing our mock drafts and everything and see how it goes. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a few short weeks away now, so it's starting to ramp up a little bit now as well, the mock draft talks and everything going on. So we're looking forward to it.
Oh, literally, the draft will be here before we turn around. I mean, it's less than 3 weeks away now. Everything's going to be ramping up. If you're listening to daily podcasts, if you're watching NFL online, pretty much that's all you're going to be hearing and seeing are mock drafts. Everyone's doing mock drafts this time of the year.
Yeah.
So if you're not up to scratch, like potentially me and Gitta, on who are the top prospects, especially within the first round, that's all you need to go and do. Basically, go on NFL, go on any podcasts, and there will be a mock draft there for you. Top 10, I think we've said Gitta is kind of obvious. again, the main things for me, I can't wait to see what happens with the QBs. Where's Cam Ward's going to go? How high or how low Shadur's going to go? Is he going to be? Is he even going to be in the top 10? Is he going to be taken number 3? Some say that the Giants might take him as number 3. Abdul Carter might be the number 1 pick. So, we've got so many different minds out there kind of coming up with so many different possibilities and prospects. So it's going to be a good watch from now to the draft. I'm definitely going to go away and do some research, do some homework on the back end of the draft, because I know it's tight end heavy, especially this year. There's a lot of good tight ends, a lot of good DBs as well. I'd say only 2 or 3 QBs might go in the first round, but I could be completely wrong. We'll definitely we'll do some research, and then we'll come back next week, like we said, for our first, I guess, mock draft of 2025. Gito, and massive shout out to diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much to IOAN for joining us once again. He will be back on the pod very, very shortly. So will we. But for now, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. Have a lovely rest of your week, and we will be back with another episode of the NFL Cymru Podcast very shortly. No star.